Legend said that he'd actually done it, had actually stood up one time when a young shagback had reared up at him from behind a tree, and had, before 3 cowboys from Hyatt Tolman's outfit, met that bear face to face, and had locked his immense arms around the bear, squeezed harder than the shagback could hug, left the bear unconscious in a thin snowbank, and laughed. Those thoroughly awed range riders had taken that story back down to the Pagosa Plains, where they'd returned to the settlement country with the last drags of Tolman's cattle. It had been good for many a free drink in the Pagosa saloons, too, as all such stories were. But Jackson Miggs never profited from it. He only went to Pagosa once or twice a year. Even then, he wouldn't go if he could inveigle someone else into fetching back supplies for him. Jackson Miggs didn't like civilization. He liked people, but not mobs of them. He once told Frank McCoy that towns made him feel panicky, that when he looked out a window and saw a building across the road less than 200 feet away, he felt like things were closing in on him. He told Frank McCoy a lot of things, and Frank, in return for Jack's friendship in that lonely world up under Ute Peak, packed Miggs's winter-trapped pelts and plues out for Jack every fall, sold them at Fort Laramie or farther east in Cheyenne, hid the money, dug it up again in the spring, and brought it back to Miggs on his way into the Ute Peak country from the north. In fact, it was usually with this north wind at his back that Frank came angling down out of some dark and twisted canyon, bundled to the eyes in a blanket coat, with a shawl over his head and ears tied under his throat, and his broad-brimmed black Stetson hat snugged down tightly over the shawl. That was why when the gusts would momentarily diminish, Miggs would look up from where he was chopping at the wood pile and run a searching look out and around. The storms had been scudding past for 10 days now, too high, too fast-moving under the bitter wind to dump more snow downward, but bound instead for the lowland country where they would dump rain. To a knowledgeable man like Jackson Miggs, or to one like Frank McCoy, this was the sign of spring. But McCoy didn't come that day, or the next day either. He didn't come swinging down out of a northward canyon for another 7 days, and then he did not come alone, nor did he announce his arrival as he usually did with a ringing loud Ute scream. But even so, riding steadily through lingering night shadows out of a canyon's mouth, Jack Miggs caught his movement 30 seconds before even an Indian would have. Jack was sitting outside on a bench with his back to the rough front wall of his house, doing nothing, just sitting there letting the thin sunbeams beat against him, thawing his winter-hardened marrow. Even after he saw McCoy, he didn't move. In fact, not until Frank reined back to let his companion come up beside him where the canyon ended and the meadow began, did Miggs even flicker an eye. But then he did, because even at that distance it was obvious, swaddling coat, big hat tugged low, bearskin gauntlets and all, that Frank's companion was a female. Jack watched, sitting still like an Indian, until consternation stirred. Then he got up, passed swiftly from sight inside his cabin, scooped up discarded clothes here and there, stuffed them into a closet, hid an earthenware jug of rye whiskey behind the stove, kicked at scattered whittlings near the wood box, and darted to his mirror to comb hair and great shaggy beard. By then his dismay had crystallized into indignation. And if there was one thing Jackson Miggs could not do, it was keep how he felt from showing in his face, in his dead-level blue eyes and down around his wide, bearded mouth. "He's in there!" Jack put down the steel comb, squinted self-consciously at the mirror, and began to turn away. "Hey, you old south end of a bear, come out here!" Miggs hastily pushed his woolen shirt into his trousers at the waistband, walked over, took a breath, and opened the door. McCoy let off a bellow and stiffly climbed out of the saddle, his face, what of it was visible,